Good morning and welcome to Bolton. I'm Joyce Stilley, the Administrative Officer for the Town of Bolton, and this is a live show done the first and the third Tuesdays of each month from 10:30 to 11 a.m. This show is rebroadcast on the second and fourth Tuesdays at the same time period. The show is a continuing effort to promote open communications within the community, and if you have an organization or an upcoming event you would like to get some PR out about, or just have a question as to how town government operates, please contact me at the town hall and we will get a show on the air that covers that topic. We are just starting our new fiscal year for a town. A town ends its fiscal year on June 30th. So my guest today is First Selectman Sandy Pirog. Welcome back.
Thank you, Joyce.
And we're going to talk about all that the Board of Selectmen dealt with. Well, we're going to touch on several of the things. We could never cover in a half-hour show everything that the board has dealt with, but there's been lots of exciting things that have happened over the past year that the board has been involved in. And I think we'll start with the Greenways.
Sure. Last fall, in November, the Greenway section of the East Coast Greenway through Bolton opened to the public. It was much anticipated, long awaited, and it's heavily used each and every day. It runs from the Bolton Town Line in Manchester in the Finley Street Camp Meeting Road area in Manchester, up to Bolton Center Road, along Bolton Center Road for a period, and then goes down along 384 and ends at the Notch Road parking lot, along with a spectacular bridge, one of the show points of the entire East Coast Greenway over the 384 exit near Notch Pond. It's, as I said, it's open to the public. If you use it for walking and biking, please remember that there are stop signs on the Greenway, and you do need to respect those and obey those stop signs. I avoided, unfortunately, an accident last night with a biker who didn't stop at the stop sign. So please keep your safety rules in mind. And parking lot is available at either the commuter lot or down at Notch Pond. And we're looking forward to having a formal opening celebration in October of this year, and more information on that will be coming. We expect to have some East Coast Greenway dignitaries to attend that. And then also we have the Nathan Hale Greenway, which is new. It's the former Route 6 land in Bolton and Coventry, and a recreational trails grant was used to plan for a path through the woods. And BSC Group, who had done other trail studies for the state and the town of Bolton, did that presentation. That land starts at Route 6 near Munson's Candy Kitchen and runs through the woods till Coventry. There are right now a bunch of informal, made by users,
Right.
Trails through the area. But hopefully over the next year or two, we'll get a formal path developed through there. And this will be a rustic walking path.
Yes, it's a path through the woods is essentially what it is. And we're waiting for that final report from BSC Group, along with maps that we don't have yet as the two towns. But I know Coventry is working with BSC Group to finalize that information. And Charter Oak has seen tremendous amount of people on it already. It's very heavily used.
That it is. Let's move on to Bolton Lake. It's Lower Bolton Lake is a state-owned lake in Bolton, and it is one of our great assets. And using steep grant funds, we were able to continue to monitor and analyze the water and the activity in the lake using Northeast Aquatic Resources, known to his friends as NEARS, and their principal, George Knockling, George came out and did 2 public information sessions for us, one recently. And although we had an algae outbreak in September of 2019, the decision was made not to use chemical treatment because of the time of year and the concern about using chemicals in the lake when it's not necessary. So we continue to monitor. If you do happen to see invasive species in the lake or notice an algae bloom, please reach out to Kim Welch, our lake commissioner, who can get in touch with the proper people. And we also have a protocol so that if the Department of Public Health is aware of things, we, the town, will post on the beaches at the lake and also make our lake commissioner aware so that their network, Friends of Bolton Lake, can be used to share that information to people.
And one of the things tied to that, whether you are a Bolton resident or you're a Vernon resident on that little piece of Lower Bolton Lake, we encourage you to sign up for the town's emergency system. And it's on the website, you can go there. But what we are able to do, should we need to notify people of a condition, is we can draw essentially a diagram on the map and highlight those people, that area, and any phone, text, email that exists within that area, we can send it out to you then. So that's a good way to stay in contact should something come up.
Thank you, Joyce, for that. I totally forgotten it.
Former Route 6 Expressway land, we talked a little bit about Nathan Hale Greenway, which was land turned back to the town for open space purposes only. This portion of the land was actually between Notch Road and Notch Road Extension, where actually several of the people there became landlocked or didn't have the appropriate frontage anymore because there was supposed to be a new road cutting through. And through Board of Selectmen's action and then town meeting action, we were able to actually give that land back to those homeowners and basically make them whole again.
Yeah, and that was well received by the homeowners along that route, and it also took away any question of future road going through there. So I think that was a win-win for everybody. And 2020 is going to be Bolton's 300th anniversary.
Yes.
And we have a diligent committee working on the anniversary planning for that, and we're hoping to have an event every month during 2020, culminating with an encampment at the Heritage Farm, a historical encampment at the Heritage Farm, and a parade in October of 2020. So if you want to get involved with that, reach out to the Selectman's office and we can put you in touch with the anniversary committee, and stay tuned for lots more information on that one.
And we also, in working with the community, and what we were trying to do before 2020 is to get the Welcome to Bolton signs out.
That's right. The Economic Development Commission and the Bolton Women's Club raised some funds, designed some very attractive Welcome to Bolton signs, and we're currently working with DOT for permits to put those signs up. As you've probably heard me say before, working with state agencies is not Joyce's or my favorite things. There are obstacles at every turning point, but we're hoping that by 2020 you will see these Welcome to Bolton signs along our major highways coming into town. The town does have these in hand, and we're just waiting for those permits to put it up.
One of your most favorite topics you've talked about before is the Notch Road Municipal Center.
Oh my goodness.
And we should start out with, when we're talking about this now, we're not talking about the south wing where the senior center is. We're talking about the main center of the building and the north wing.
Correct, correct. And those of you who have known me for a long time know that I, like many others, went to elementary school there. And the building is near and dear to my heart. I moved to Bolton in second grade, and my second grade class was in the senior center wing. The center wing, the main building, the two-story portion, is used by the town for meeting rooms and town offices. Our registrar of voters and our finance department is over there, and we also use a large part of the building for storage. The north wing of the building, again a two-story area, which has the CD room in the basement, is currently rented, at least the lower portion, to a tenant, a faith-based tenant who has been using that for quite some time, paying rent to the town of Bolton. Unfortunately, that section of the building is not structurally sound anymore, and we have an engineering report that was made available that we had done and was reported back to us in the winter of 2018 that basically said we have 3 to 5 years of life left in that building. The costs to repair the building would far exceed the costs to build a new structure of similar size. So this year, the town, in the budget, we put in the capital reserve fund a start to a cost to tear down that building. And as sad as I am to see it go, it's a reality we have to accept.
And the structural report basically showed that you could spend as much on it, actually a little bit more than building new, but you still would have a building that is this old to begin with and would only have maybe a 15 to 20 year life. I mean, it just does not make sense. And we were looking at it for town hall space. So now the selectmen will continue to look at other options for town hall space.
Yes, and town hall space is at a premium at the moment. If you've been in town hall, you know that we are out of meeting space, we are out of office space. Our staff has been very creative about utilizing their space in the best way possible, but we're literally at the point where we're busting at the seams. So that's some bad news. Let's talk about some good news again, and that relates to the fire department. Our tanker truck was delivered actually in last fiscal year, but shortly after delivery, we realized there were the fire department, realized there were some issues with the truck, and through the actions of our fire chief, Bruce Dixon, his fire truck committee, working with the company that sold us the truck, the manufacturer of the truck, we were able to get the truck repaired at no cost to the town. And the truck is back in Bolton, has been now for quite some time, and is everything we'd hoped and more. Yes. So we're very happy to that. Also this year, we added a pickup truck to the fire department fleet, and it has been outfitted so that it can serve as a command vehicle should there be a need for that. And it's also available to our firefighters who are going to training out of town to allow them to commute in a town vehicle. Also, wow,
yes.
Fire department's been busy this year,
yes,
in addition
definitely.
to saving lives. They designed and we approved, and construction has begun on a new fire department training area. It's in the, I have to think about it for a second, northwest corner of the existing parking lot. It will eventually be paved, have a fire hydrant in it. And two fire hydrants, right, so they can draft and feed. Again, valuable skills for our firefighters. And it will be paved so that the safety issues with glass and metal fragments can be easily cleaned up. And still on the fire department,
yes.
The Board of Selectmen worked with the Fire Commission and the Fire Department for new job descriptions for our fire marshal and deputy fire marshals, and we appointed Jim Rupert, a staff member, as the new fire marshal. Jim Rupert's name may be very familiar with you because Jim wears many hats. He's our building officials, our emergency management coordinator, and our fire marshal. And very talented and very easy to work with. So,
moving away from the fire department, town garage addition was approved, and this has been discussed on and off, but it took us a while to get to this point, and then the LoCIP, the local capital improvement program monies were frozen, and so we couldn't move forward, but it's a 50 by 84 bay cold storage addition. And we were able to add on a truck wash bay, which will make DEEP much happier with us in the end. They've started work on all of that. The old town garage was the first thing that needed to be addressed, and it was demolished. And now we're working on underground utilities, and then you'll see the building go up. But if you're down in that area, you'll see beams and other parts of the building have already been delivered, and so that's moving forward. We've talked about Jim. One of his many hats is emergency management director, and on a yearly basis, the state actually has a statewide drill, which the town participates in, and Jim takes a lead on that, but what people may not understand is it is a tabletop drill, but basically staff who would be active in a real live situation are all together for that day going through various scenarios with the state. And so that involves, the people in charge of our CERT teams, people in charge of maintenance, our fire chief, police. It involves everybody if we were going to open a shelter. So it involves a lot of staff people to actually do the drills as they move forward. We don't have info on this one, but usually it's a fall time period. And the next item is going to be one of Sandy's favorite, uniform chart of accounts. The state adopted a uniform chart of accounts, and unfortunately Bolton, those timing, we always try to be a leader, and this was one time it was not in our favor to be the leader. When we changed software little over 3 years ago, we chose to move to that at the same time. Unfortunately, everything was drafted at that point, which resulted in
lots of changes. If you looked at the budget this year with great detail, and those of us on the Board of Selectmen did, and those on the Board of Finance as well, there were lots of items that changed and lots of groupings of things that changed in the Uniform Chart of Accounts. If you're not involved in purchasing for the town of Bolton or a detailed reviewer of the budget, this is something that took a tremendous amount of staff time and effort, auditor time and effort, but it will never affect anybody in the town. So we are compliant with the state Uniform Chart of Accounts. We were a leader in early adoption. We were a leader in massive revision. And hopefully now we're on the point where we will be going forward with little change. But that was a bit of a challenge for our finance people and our administrative officer. So moving back outside to more important interesting things to more
Yes.
people is the Eastern Gateway study, and the towns of Bolton, Mansfield, including Yukon, Tolland, and Coventry, participated in an economic development and transportation study. The study took several months and was finally finalized and adopted by not only the town of Bolton and the other towns involved, but also the Capital Region Council of Governments. So it is another study on the books, closed, but before people start to think, oh great, another study for the shelf, Bolton has recently entered into a economic development coordination study with the same towns, and we will be working with the Connecticut Economic Resource Center, also known as CERC, to develop an action plan for implementation of some of these studies that have up until now sort of been just
Yes.
studies.
And part of the important part of that is it's not really another study. It's going to review the studies and existing data and come up with a plan that each town could do separately or we could do jointly. And the town of Bolton, as Sandy knows, we continue to work with Coventry on many things, and including the Route 44 town line area. We've had some potential plans even come up as to what that gateway could look like. But, CROG took the lead on this and actually the next two items, and that's all very good for the town of Bolton. The next one is unfortunately not necessarily exciting again, but the crumbling foundations. The exciting part is the state has started to fund crumbling foundations. And, if you look out at the services, we have continued to pursue those resources and funding and participate in meetings and the testing program. But one of the things that's not even on our list that we're talking about is shared services, and we are actually provide building official services to the town of Willington. I can tell you that since this money became available in Willington, they now have building permits for 8 houses, which is just the tip of the iceberg, but 8 houses under the crumbling foundations. So it just shows that the group of individuals that have come together with state officials, with people from all walks of life, have turned around and made this possible to start this process of dealing with the crumbling foundation issue.
And we do have some homes in Bolton who have identified, unfortunately, as crumbling foundation issues. We have some homes that have completed the mitigation, and we have some homes that are working on the mitigation. So if you have a home and you've discovered those, please reach out to the Selectman's office. We can put you in touch with some resources that might be available to you, and our building department has that information as well. Moving on to talk about plans, we are required to adopt a natural hazards mitigation plan, and Joyce worked very closely with CROG, Capital Region Council of Governments, on the development of this, and both Bolton and CROG have adopted the plan that is in force from 2019 to 2024. So that's behind us, and if you are interested in that, you can, is that on our website?
There's a link on our website to that information, just as there is for crumbling foundation info too.
Oh, good, good. And I didn't, when we were talking back about the steep grant in Bolton Lake, George Knockling's last presentation from a couple weeks ago is not yet on the website, but will be shortly. and his prior presentation is on the website. So if you miss those and want to look at them, they're out there.
One of the things this year, is looking at the changing world we live in, was that the school and the town administrations looked at what can we share with individuals to make them feel that the town has done its due diligence in providing a safe atmosphere workplace and a safe place in our schools for our children to attend. So we held the first school safety forum this past year, and it had representation from different town departments, fire department, police, health district, myself, various from the school, and just went through to share what we could, but to assure everybody that we have done a tremendous amount of planning. We just can't necessarily share the details as you would never do in your own security plan. But that was, I don't know if it was filmed, and it was also up on the website.
Yeah, and Joyce and I recently met with the chairman of the Board of Education, the superintendent of schools, and our resident troopers, just to review some items of the safety plan and police presence at the schools. And I think you should not be concerned because we have planned. You can't plan for everything, and you can't anticipate everything, but I think we are on the ball on this particular issue. Several months ago, we had a group of residents come to the Board of Selectmen's meeting to ask us to work on a blight ordinance, and the Board of Selectmen has had several meetings on the blight ordinance. We're hoping that that gets finalized in the next 6 months or so. It will have to go to a public hearing, and it will have to be discussed. So there probably will be a future show on the blight ordinance.
And it sounds like it should be an easy thing, but once you actually start putting the words on paper, what somebody might consider natural growth, going back to the nature, somebody else could consider as blight with grass, or you can't mow it because of wetness, or there's been a fire. So it's actually not as straightforward as anybody, I think, originally believed.
And believe me, I certainly understand that. If you drive by my house on Brandy Street, you'll see that in front of my house, after the rain, I have a pond, and after the rain dries up, I have a swamp. Yep. And it's almost impossible to mow, but that's Bolton, and I've had a fire in my house, and I know how long it takes to deal with the insurance companies and to deal with the contractors, and there are circumstances that occur that cause deferred maintenance. So we have to be very, very careful and very deliberate as to what we put in this ordinance. And I hope people will speak up and bring their concerns to us, because it's been a lot of hard work. So
we only have about a minute and a half
left. Oh my goodness, all of this
we still have a bunch of things to talk. Well, so I'll go to you for closing first. And we'll
okay, closing. Joyce is retiring eventually. She has agreed to stay until September 5th, and we are very, very grateful for that. Among her accomplishments while she was with us was getting Bolton involved in a health insurance consortium with some other towns in eastern Connecticut, and saving us a lot of money. So I know I've said it before, but thank you again for that. And Joyce was beside me as we worked through the shared services and came up with the town's very first townwide position. We now have a townwide buildings and grounds, what is his title, manager? Supervisor. So.
I'm just going to wrap up very quickly. Town meeting tonight to reauthorize funding. It has already been borrowed. It's just funds that have sat there that we need to reauthorize. Board of Selectmen will meet. Actually, my next show will be Patrice Carson. We're actually going to talk about that economic development for town that was mentioned earlier. Thank you to Community Voice Channel for its continued support. I'll see you in 2 weeks.